accept the minutes of the March 1st meeting.
Motion to accept?
Second.
I'd make the motion.
Second.
Thank you.
Should we shut that? I don't know. Yeah. we should. Thank you so much for allowing us to come tonight. We had a life-threatening event the day after Christmas in my home, and this device saved my husband's life. So this is my daughter, Maggie O'Rourke. Oh, Maggie O'Rourke, who bought the device. So I would like her to start by telling you why she bought it. Just take a couple minutes to explain what happened with it and why we're bringing them tonight.
Hi everyone, I'm Maggie. I'm a nurse myself. I work in an ICU. I guess it's made me a little anxious, should we say. So I also have a 1.5-year daughter, so I bought this about a year ago after hearing about it from friends at work. So I think I'll always be targeted as the nervous, anxious mom. But I bought this for my daughter, and then I bought one for my parents' house. And as a joke, I gave it to them on Christmas. I grew up with 2 brothers, and I knew they would make fun of me for giving this device as a Christmas gift. And sure enough, my mom had to use it the very next day on my dad after he choked on a piece of turkey. So do you want to explain how?
Yeah,
the
I
whole-
just want to, and then we'll show you how the device works. So the day after Christmas, my husband and I were very tired, and we had entertained all day, and we were sitting on low cushion couch and eating, not at the table. And he was eating some of my dry turkey from the day before. We can laugh about it now. And I looked over and I asked him if he was okay, and he couldn't speak. So by the time he got out of the chair and went into the kitchen, he immediately became unconscious, fell to the floor, and was not breathing. And of course, I'm a nurse practitioner, but when it's your family, it's a different story. So I did everything wrong, probably, but we did get through the Heimlich maneuver and the chest thrusts, and nothing was working. And I had the 911 operator on my phone, who was fabulous. And finally, we said, we need to do CPR. I started CPR. And I remembered the life vac that my daughter had given us the day before that I hadn't really even looked at, and it was still under the Christmas tree. So this literally was an angel on my shoulder. I ran and got the life vac. I used it, and the first try, nothing happened. The second try, the food came up, and within 30 seconds, he took a breath. And I really feel like it saved his life. If I didn't have that, I don't know what would have happened. The paramedics did eventually come, but I don't know what would have happened if he was unconscious without oxygen for any longer. So we teased Maggie, but we're so very happy that she did that. That being said, Maggie followed up with the company, and they gave us a code if we were willing to put it on social media. And we've had 250 orders so far to date. And when I say order, that means you could have ordered 10, that's one order. And we received a life vac from them donated for every order that we received. So we've already donated 75 to the schools, hoping to put 2 in each school, and we have more to give to the city to use in whatever way they'd like to use them. And Maggie's going to demonstrate how it works.
And as my mom said, she didn't really even look at this when she got it, so it was that easy that she could figure out during an emergency. You just take the mask, you put it in this plunger device. This plunger, this is a one-way valve, so when you place this mask on the face, you cannot push air in. It only sucks out. So they tell you to place, push, and pull, and it creates suction. I don't know if you can tell there, but it's a very big suction, and you just do it until hopefully whatever is stuck is dislodged. This also, just of note, is to be used after all BLS protocol, meaning after the Heimlich maneuver and after starting CPR. This is like a life-saving measure, like a Hail Mary, essentially, to use after. But the company's been so great to work with, and they've helped us donate all these devices, so I hope we can get them in each school and to the city as they feel they should go.
Thank you so much for coming.
Sorry, and they also come with a pediatric mask. It comes with
Okay, great.
a practice mask, an adult mask, a pediatric mask, and then over there, the ones that come in the case, those are actually travel devices that you can keep in your car. They're the exact same, they just don't come with a practice mask.
Okay.
Does the board have anything they want to ask, or?
How many have you donated to the city already?
So we have donated 75 to the schools, and we have,
Well, we
like
have
at
another
least-
75, but they're dwindling. But we can call and get more because we've had so many orders with our
Yeah,
code.
she
If you
sent
want to
about-
order one, you go on LifeVac and you put in the code FLO for Florence Flo, and you'll get a discount and we get a LifeVac.
So I ordered one last night, and I didn't put your code in, but you should get credit for it. So you can tell them, you use my name and say, hey, this guy ordered under because of us. I apologize.
I'm sorry about
code.
that, yeah.
The code is
Yeah.
FLO, F-L-O, and you get 10% off and free shipping.
And we don't
Damn.
work for LifeVac. Sometimes we feel like we
I
do.
keep trying to get a job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is the animal inspectors.
Madam Chair, before we
do
move
we-
on.
Really? Do we have a motion to return to the order of items to 3 to the nomination of animal inspectors?
No, before we move on, I have a
Oh,
comment.
excuse me, Dr. Galvin?
Yeah, so I'm just wondering if maybe the health director could maybe do a survey of the various locations in the city, see what it would be if we were to put one in each building, or certainly in every school, and can we do that, and how much that would cost?
Ms. Golden? I think we've already put, have they
In
already?
every school already?
So the schools have started putting them out there in the cafeterias, and they've actually reached out to the company, and they actually have a case that they can sit in. So originally they were going to hang them, but I guess there actually is a case that they can sit in, and they're buying the cases to put them in rather than leaving them in the travel cases. They're actually purchasing them. And Dr. Conley actually has signed off on a protocol. So there is a protocol that Dr. Conley has signed off on, and these are covered by the Good Samaritan law as well. So we have done a little bit of research on this as
Perfect,
well.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything else on LifeVac? Okay. So do we have a motion to go back to the animal inspectors item on the agenda?
Sure, I'll make that motion.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Okay. I think, Darlene, I don't know if you wanted to get up and say anything. I guess, so I guess there was a question at the last meeting about the animal inspectors or enforcement of the keeping of chickens regulation. I don't know if you want to speak to that at all, or if you're,
Lowell does not allow any type of farm animals or chickens. Lowell allows raising
Right.
pigeons, and that is it as far as any type of fowl goes.
okay. So, are the animal inspectors doing any enforcement of that, or have you been,
We do, however, the most we can do with that is we send it up to the law office. If they want to continue to go after someone, we write them up for a fine, and then it goes there. We do have, and this is kind of the gray area, we do have cultures that have chickens that they slaughter on a regular basis for food, and that is not the same as having chickens that they're raising. So in other words, sometimes people pick up a chicken on a Wednesday and they are slaughter and cooking it on Friday. That is not something that falls under our enforcement, because people are allowed to do that. Just like when we have different cultural holidays, they are allowed to pick up lambs, slaughter them for their cultural holiday. So the chickens that, anytime we run into anyone that has any type of livestock or fowl that they're not supposed to have, chickens, pigs, horses, sheep, anything, we inspect and we keep a bond book on that we make sure the state is aware of. At the same point in time, we cite them and then send it off to the law department if they want to move on steps to remove them out of the city. The chicken debate went in front of city council back in, I believe my notes were 2014 or 15, I can always look. And the council never voted. There was a bunch of residents that came together that asked that they be considered, because they wanted to raise chickens for their own meat and they wanted to raise it for their own eggs for the
Right.
health of their family. The council never got back and voted on if people could or could not. So the best that we do, we enforce. We certainly tell people they're not allowed to have chickens. The only chickens, like I said, we do not take from people are the ones that obviously they are going to culturally consume within a short time period. And like I said, we keep notes of anyone that does have anything, so we can inspect it on a regular basis to make sure it's not carrying any disease, and the Department of Agriculture is aware of it.
so just for clarification, and I'm not sure if, is there someone from the law department here? Not yet. If someone, had a neighbor or someone that was keeping chickens, is it the health inspector that we're reporting that to, or the animal inspector? I think that was a question from last month.
My understanding, it's the animal inspector.
Okay.
But what people don't understand is just because we have a ordinance that states people cannot have these animals, we have to follow a very specific structure on our legal process of taking someone's animals. So we cannot just go in and confiscate someone's animals, just like if we have a dog bite, we do not have the right to go in and take someone's dog. Animals are considered property, so with that, we have to follow a very legal structure on how it is that we remove animals from someone's property if they don't give us consent.
So just so I'm clear, the process is if you observed animals being kept in the city by someone, would you cite them and send that citation to the law department, or do you?
We cite them and we send a letter off to the law department letting them know that there are, whatever it is, pigs. We have some people that have pigs that live in their house as their pets. We have chickens. And again, we do have chickens that are nothing more than roaming around someone's yard. It's not a purpose of their food source. And those are more of a concern because it's not a cultural or a food source. And then we send that off, because at that point in time, then we would have to actually bring a legal action to take control of their animals.
So we do have someone here from the law department. I'm not sure, sir, if you would like to jump into this discussion we're having about chickens.
Don't blame you. Stay away from it. Hot
We were just
topic.
talking about the process, so we had a discussion last month, I think, about, we generally, when we get complaints about people keeping chickens, we'll refer that to the health inspector. But the animal inspector is telling us that technically we should be referring the matter to the animal inspector.
Oh, no, you can keep them. I wasn't telling you to send them to me. You can keep those complaints.
Well, you're,
Yeah, plenty,
but
but-
you're saying the
Correct.
appropriate, I'm just asking what the appropriate person in the legal process or appropriate,
What is the complaint? Is it a health complaint or is it an animal complaint? Is it chicken loose or is it?
the discussion is in general, if people are keeping chickens in the city, which is not allowed under the city ordinance, does the complaint go to the health inspector or the animal inspector? I think I'm hearing that technically it should go to the animal inspector, who then has the ability to cite the person and send a letter to the law department, is what Doreen is saying the process is. I'm just, yeah,
Right.
right, we do. This is just strictly, we were just strictly talking about the fact that there's an ordinance and who should the report of the keeping of those animals go to, whether it's, but we usually have a health inspector here tonight, and we don't, so.
Well, and
can't
again,
read what that
as I
says.
brought up, just so you're aware, we do have different cultures that, as I said, they are allowed to have animals at certain times for holidays that they are allowed to slaughter as long as they slaughter them in humane, acceptable way. We do have some that, will raise chickens or have them on a Wednesday to slaughter on a Friday. Those are all things that is not the same if someone is actually raising chickens or, again, has them. Our concern is that when we show up, we make sure they have been blood tested by the state or by a company that they came from, that they are obviously living in acceptable conditions for the animal that it is, and that is not a disease. From there, we move forward. However, it does get gray in the legal area, because in order to take these animals, like I said, no matter it's a dog, a cat, a chicken, a pig, it's a process. It's a legal process. It's not just we go cite them and then the next time we can show up and take their chickens. Same with dogs, cats, horses. So there is a legal process to it.
Right, and so at time in the past, in my experience in the last 25 years, in terms of chickens, is that sometimes people don't know that you're not allowed to keep chickens in the city, and once the health inspector has informed them that you're not allowed to, keep chickens for eggs for food, then once a person becomes aware of that and is cited or fined, they generally get rid of the chickens. They don't usually have to go through some long drawn out, legal process.
And most people will if it's not, like I said, truly a cultural thing. Like I said, we'll start getting probably this month because there are different holidays.
Right. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I wasn't speaking about getting food to slaughter within a few days. Was referring to, I think the discussion was the keeping of farm animals, which is against the city ordinance.
Correct. So most people, once they know that, it's like people do not realize you have to license your dog every year. People say, oh, my dog's been, when I bought it, it had all its paperwork, and it will be 5 years old. So once you educate people and you tell them they cannot, sometimes they say, okay, can you find a place? Sometimes they say, we'll find a place for it, depending on how attached they are to the animals. And most people do remove the animals. Once we let them know, they're not allowed to have them. It's the times that we have people that become difficult, that's a whole nother process. But most people do. Once they are educated, they do not keep them.
Okay. Thank you. Does the board have any questions with regard to the keeping of farm animals? Okay. All right, so the motion is to approve the nomination of the animal inspector, and the information was in the packet. Do we have a motion to approve nomination for animal inspector Darlene Wood?
After all that, you still want this job?
I've been trying to get out of here forever. No, I'm kidding. Don't let my boss hear that. I'm in
I'll
trouble.
make that nomination.
A second.
We have nomination and a second. Thank you. All those in favor?
Need a vote? Joanne?
Yes.
Erin? Yes.
Yes.
Kathleen? Allison?
Real quick, just so you know, we do have a couple of farms that have been grandfathered in the city of Lowell. Very minor, small farms, but they do have horses, and one does have a goat. So we do the barn book every year that is reflected on that, but in case you get calls.
Madam Chair, just for clarification on the conversation. So my point from the law department would be, if it's a zoning infraction, then you go into the zoning ordinance. So if they're keeping chickens and the zoning says you can't have chickens, or in the example she just said, if you have a farm, you have over 5 acres, it supersedes the zoning because you have state rights under the Farm Bureau in different other areas, or if your grandfather has the zoning. So that's about the keeping of it. But going to the questions about, as was mentioned, if it's a holiday and you have fresh animals to celebrate your holiday, and then how the procedure they use to slaughter the animals, if they're not following the proper procedure, that could be a health code issue, different things like that. So the complaint would have to be alleged, and then it'd have to go to the law department, then we determine what the authority is to enforce it. That's what I was saying about either health or zoning.
Okay.
So just for clarification on that. But if the board has any questions, you can just send your request for information up to the law department, and we'll take a look at it and respond, similar to what we did with this regulation here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Thank you.
Just so I could add in, most of the people, I've been here now going on 12 years, so all of the people in the cultural aspects that slaughter animals, they are very respectful to their neighbors also. It's not something done out in the opening that is going to traumatize their neighbors or the children or anything like that. I will say that. We've never had a problem. And again, we normally will get a call because someone will see that animal, and then that person can articulate very clearly to me how it is that they're going to humanely euthanize it. So we do know.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is a medical consultant contract for Dr. Peter Conley as mailed. Does the board have any questions about Dr. Conley's contract, or do we have a motion to approve Dr. Conley's contract?
Motion to approve. A second.
Kathleen?
All in favor? And then I need a vote.
Yes.
Erin? Yes. Bill?
Yes.
Kathleen? Yes. Allison?
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is for review, a proposed modified body art regulation. Okay. And,
This small document?
You have one person that has to speak later.
okay. Does the board have any questions or comments about the proposed regulation, or did Caesar have any thing you wanted to say, or has it been all said for the last several months? Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Wrong person. Okay. Okay. Attorney McKenna, do you have anything you want to comment in terms of the regulation?
No, with regards to the regulation, so the regulation is proposed pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 111, Section 31, which the Board of Health has the authority to adopt regulations, and it's the requirements are to have an advertisement to say that you're going to post this, and you're going to have a public meeting, I think, is on the agenda today to propose a public meeting for this.
Yes.
So that would give the public an opportunity to get their input on it, so, I think we can, whoever wants to talk on it tonight, any members of the board, it's on the agenda, but I think it's smart to have a public meeting to give notice to the public, and if they have any comments, they can do at that time. So I think it would be wise to, you have it on the agenda tonight, but give the board a chance to digest it if there's any questions about it, or if anybody in the audience has some questions, but a more thorough discussion would be had at the public meeting, and what's the date on that? If so elected by the board to do that. So the proposed regulations were sent up to the law department, and Carrie Alexander in the health department did a great job. She looked at several different regulations in other towns and communities and put together these proposals. So I worked with Carrie to go through, make sure they were legally, had the authority to do what we're looking to do. And we have these proposed regulations that will go before the board, have the board's input. I think it's wise to get the input of the community, especially the people that are practicing under it. Sometimes you make a regulation, it doesn't seem important, but it could affect the way that they're doing it. So to have this procedure and to go through this exercise, I think is a great service to the community and the people that will be using the regulation. So I'm here to answer any questions that you may have on the legal end.
Okay, so just sort of to summarize, the regulations that the Board of Health has in place regarding body art, and this addendum to the regulation proposes to include and allow microblading or the process of inserting semi-permanent pigment using small needles or blades into the epidermis of the skin, as well as microderm abrasion, which is used to renew overall skin tone and texture to improve the appearance of sun damage, wrinkles, fine lines, age spots, etc. And micropigmentation is the procedure involving small needles or blades being used to impart semi-permanent pigment to the epidermis of the skin. So we have body art regulations in place surrounding tattooing and etc. But this proposes, we had a request from the public to add those items to be allowed into the regulations governing body art in the city. And does the board have any questions about the proposed changes that we haven't already discussed, or comments about any other changes that you might want made?
It's just a quick, I tried to go through this last night. Are we proposing that this be done like in a tattoo parlor with all the same requirements of tattoo artists, or are we carving out a separate body art from microblading alone?
This would be covered. This would be covered under the body art regulations, and so they would have to follow the regs that are in here. So whatever is, unless it's specifically spelled out as excluded or in addition to what the body art establishment or regulations are, they would have to follow what's in here. And just so you know that the red print is what we discussed prior, and the blue print is what, upon review with Attorney McKenna, was added after you had seen it. So that was why there's two different shades.
Still
So-
not sure I understand.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that
Like,
answers
so let
the
me
question.
phrase this a different way. If you're a tattoo entity and an established tattoo artist, do you need to go through a separate process to get privileging and microblading, or would that be included as a tattoo artist since it's a very similar thing?
They would have to meet the requirement for microblading, which is a cosmetologist operating outside the scope of their cosmetology license. So if they don't have a cosmetology license, they wouldn't qualify to be doing microblading.
So this has nothing to do with tattooing, it's a total separate thing from tattooing.
It could be, unless you have both the
You'd have to have both
education and
educations.
right, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, I think that clarifies it, thank you.
Also, Dr. Galvin, I believe in one of the regs, it specifies where you can do this under the establishment.
Right.
I believe
Page,
we talked about it prior, that it has to be Can't remember now, I'm sorry, but I believe we put it into the regs. I'll see if I can find it and then mention it to you.
And Page 4 defines cosmetologist. Okay, anything else? Apparently, we have someone who would like to speak on the subject.
Letitia Kawana.
Letitia? Okay, if you wouldn't mind going to the microphone and stating your name, that would be great.
My name is Julia Silva. I was in front of the board for about a year ago. I don't know if you remember me. I lost a couple of pounds. But it has been a long process, and I want to say I appreciate very much Miss Carrie Alexander, because she has been very patient, and I have been bugging her a lot at the Board of Health for that. I also want to say I appreciate the work of the lawyer John McKenna. I also worked with him, helping putting together the laws, and hopefully this is coming for an end, because I have been waiting for this for more than 1 year, and it has been putting some restraining on how I conduct my business. For those that doesn't know, I'm the owner of I Love Beauty Lowell, that is here in Lowell, 11 Mill Street. So this has been a long process, and I really appreciate the board, and I appreciate the fact that you gave me this opportunity, and I'm looking forward for this to come to an end. And if anyone has any question, I helped through the way, and I still want to help to clarify everything or anything that anyone have, and I'm really looking forward to open my business to this part. So I'm hoping today we have like a wrap up around this.
We are too, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Do we have a motion to approve the amended regulations governing body art for the Board of Health?
Sure, I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Dr. Galvin,
second.
second by Erin.
I just need a vote to schedule this for a public hearing on the May
10th.
2023 Board of Health meeting.
Yes.
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 Kathleen?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so we hope the final meeting will be May 10th to allow the public to comment on it.
So if we approve it on May 10th, is it open for business on May 11th? I guess that's a...
That's a,
Oh, yeah, they have to then apply for the privilege, right.
Yes.
Does this also address the zoning issue?
we have another registered speaker? Oh, okay.
Today, because I am not prepared, because my I needed to transfer.
Okay, so if you'd like, we'll have a meeting at May 10th at 6 o'clock in the same room here for anyone that wishes to speak, a public hearing regarding the regulations. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Yes. Yeah, my question was answered, yes.
If any of the board has any questions, just send them up to the law department, we'll get back to you.
Okay, thank you. That's been sent to law, I believe, right? Is he sticking around for the tobacco thing?
Tobacco hearings? No, because the regulation's not on here.
You told Jack I said hello.
Okay.
I went to school at St. Rebecca's, graduating.
You did? Oh, my goodness.
We just want the law department to reaffirm our belief that we can both find and require hearings for this. Oh, you do?
You do, okay.
He's like sneaking down, I didn't know he was.
Like, oh, stick around.
The next item on the agenda is the Tobacco Control Monthly Report submitted by Caesar Pundgren, Program Director. And tonight we have tobacco permit suspension hearings. These permit suspension hearings stem from the sale of tobacco to a minor occurring during compliance checks carried out in January of 2023. And I'll turn it over to you, Caesar.
Yes, before you start calling each of these retailers, I just want to say that there was a question raised by Attorney Hurley last meeting. In summary, his question was, well, his point was that it wasn't appropriate for the board to fine $1,000 for a first sale to a minor and apply a suspension. And I submitted a question to the law department. I got a response, and the response is as following. This is by First Assistant City Solicitor Corey Williams. He said that based on my reading and interpretation of 665040D and 665045, there is no specific language precluding the issuance of a $1,000 fine and a permanent suspension for the first violation. Therefore, the city is within the statutory rights to continue to do this practice. Also, in addition to this, my understanding is that there's an email that came out from the law department, from the Mass Department of Public Health, that affirms exactly what the law department has said. So the board has a right to both fine and suspend for first offenders. In addition to the question he raised, he also pointed out that the letter, the cease and desist order that was sent out, it was not clear based on that letter that there was also going to be a possible suspension of the tobacco permit, simply because the information about that was included in the letter, but it was in a separate paragraph. So I moved that section just about the suspension to be just next to the fine of $1,000, so it's clearer to anybody reading the cease and desist order. Also, I amended the application, the form that we used, to include a more clear explanation that violations of the tobacco regulation, the state regulation, results in penalties from $1,000 to $5,000 and suspension of a tobacco permit. So it's clear that it's one of the 16 statements that they have to acknowledge individually by initialing each one in addition to the signature on the form. So that's also clear. Also, we put the web page that contains the tobacco information under revision. So that's going to include a link to the new tobacco application, as well as a more clear statement stating that both state regulations and local regulations apply regarding the sale of tobacco products, or the sale of tobacco products in general in the city, because this was one of the points that he made that was not clear enough by looking at the website. And I think that's pretty much it, that as far as the issues he raised at that meeting. So what you have in front of you is a packet containing sheets of information for each of these stores that are here tonight. There's 8, and it includes, as the last time, the purpose of each of these hearings, the rule that applies. You're going to see that in the case of the second offense, there are 2 provisions that apply, not just one, as well as a summary of the facts for each of these cases. So that's pretty much as far as general statements. If the board wants to, you want to call the stores individually, or you want me to do it?
Sure. I just had a comment on the opinion from the legal department. If
Yes.
we could get a copy of that in the packet next month, just so the board gets to see that.
Yes. I have it here, but I can now also include
Yeah,
it.
if
Yes.
we could put it in, if you could give it to Kerry for the packet next month, just so
Yes.
we've seen it, in case the question comes up again. Sure. So would you like?
I would just also like to thank Caesar for making all those changes in a very
Right.
quick and timely manner.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Right.
No problem.
That's great. It's great that we got an opinion from the law department quickly, too. If they were here, we could thank them. And so shall we move forward with the first Highland Variety, 146 Pine Street, the data violation? I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, Mr. Wooders is here, along with Francisco Wooders. The compliance check occurred on the 12th of January, 2028, last week. dispatch of Newport cigarettes or so to this minor. You see a photograph of it. Don't you? He was 18 on that day, he was 18 today, and he was not challenged at all. So, Mr. Jorge, what does he like to
Francisco.
I got something in my packet today on the here.
Hello, my name is Francisco Huertas. I'm here on behalf of Highland Variety in regards to a fine we were given, which we respect and acknowledge at Highland Variety due to negligence of the worker we had at the store, which was neither George or I. We mean good as a convenience store. We do not condone in selling of any type of tobacco products to minors, especially anyone under the age of 21. We are as I would say, the home store of Lowell, or as far as Maury School goes, a lot of people go to the store. We've been open for 3 years, and when we first opened, it wasn't a store. And if you go by now, you will see that it is a convenience store. It is a store that all the little kids go to during the summer, go to during the winter. The kids pull up on their motorcycles, dirt bikes, cars, however you want to call it, but it is a store that a lot of people go to, and it's a well-respected store. And I understand the circumstances are a little not good at the moment, which is absolutely why we came here to discuss the situation. And I just wanted to say that we do not condone in that, and we look for always a positive image at Highland Variety. Thank you.
I'm sorry, could you just say at the microphone in case the board has any questions?
Of course.
And does anyone have any questions of this?
What have you guys put in place since this has happened to protect the young kids that go to your store in the future?
Well, the person that was there isn't there anymore. Obviously, we check in a little bit more, as I would say, because obviously we opened it 3 years ago because it wasn't a store. It was almost nothing. It was never open. So we took it upon ourselves to open the store and try to get it to where it could be a store again. And obviously, we have other duties. So, we take our time to get people to work there, people that we could obviously respect and that, know what they're doing, but it doesn't always work like that if you would know. I mean, it's tough. It's a tough game.
But
we definitely try to make it a little bit more serious. Obviously, it's not a joke. We don't take it as a joke. It's pretty damn serious. So, I mean, the only thing you could do is really just be on top of it, to be honest, and just not allow any of that stuff.
So the new people that you might have hired to replace this person who sold tobacco to a minors has been appropriately trained around the.
Of course. We try to work with obviously adults, that you would hope would know the difference between good and bad, but obviously it doesn't always work like that. So we even when it comes to new people, we have to do our job as far as. The way they represent Highland Variety and us.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have any other questions?
So my recommendation is a 3-day suspension beginning on Tuesday, the 18th of April, for 3 consecutive business days.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
So we have a motion on the floor and seconded by Erin to suspend the license for 3 consecutive days. Yes.
Erin?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
And Alex?
Yes.
Okay.
The next on the agenda is the tobacco permit suspension hearing for Lowell Quick Mart, located at 627 Chelmsford Street in Lowell. I spoke to him, and he said that, well, he actually sent a note saying that because of health reasons, he wasn't going to be able to attend tonight. But he was sorry. He understands that he made a mistake, but he was sorry that it happened, and he expects not to let it happen in the future. So this violation occurred on January 11th at about 9:40 a.m. This pack of Marlboro cigarettes were purchased for $12.50. The same kid went in, asked for the product. He had a $20 bill, was not asked for ID, was not asked for anything, was able to leave the store with a pack of cigarettes. I think that's pretty much it for now. Let me see. Yeah, he said he was going to try to be here, but because of health reasons, he might not be here tonight.
Okay, thank you.
All of these violators have paid their fines, $1,000 or $2,000, whichever the case may be. So it's just Whatever is here to be dealt with is basically whether to suspend for 3 days or for 30 days, except for 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven has not paid the fine because she requested an appeal. So that appeal is going to be heard tonight.
So 7-Eleven is appealing the fine?
Yes.
Okay. Right, and so just so it's clear to folks that are here this evening, the purpose of the hearing is for the board to consider the suspension of the tobacco sales permit for up to 30 days, but the minimum is 3 days after the violation. So we don't have a lot of leeway with regard to the regulation in terms of fines. So 3 days is the minimum in terms of the vote for the suspension. Okay?
And I would just comment that what we're looking for is remorse and a plan to try and keep it from happening again. And that's all we're asking for, to keep it at a minimum.
To ensure that either the folks that sold the tobacco have been retrained, or the people that replaced them have been trained around the law, around the tobacco regulation.
My recommendation in this case is suspension, a 3-day consecutive business day suspension beginning on Tuesday, the 18th of April.
So do we have a motion to suspend Lowell Quick Mart for 3 days?
Yep.
We have a motion seconded.
Second.
Vote. Yes.
Erin? Yes. Bill?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Okay.
Next on the agenda is the tobacco permit suspension hearing of Jerry's Food Store 2, located at 207 University Avenue in Lowell. Jerry's Food Store sold a pack of Marlboro cigarettes to an 18-year-old male youth on January 13th during routine compliance checks conducted by the Lowell Tobacco Control Program. This was the establishment's first sale of tobacco to a minor pursuant to the aforementioned state regulation within the last 36 months. This is a pack of cigarette that was purchased at that location at about 11:15 a.m. on the 13th, $12.99. Mr. Bhupendra, the owner, was the person who made the sale. He's here present tonight. He's going to address the board.
Hello, good evening. That day, somehow I don't know what happened, but I did, myself. I was there. I was working, the same every day. But first time I did a mistake, last 20 years. It won't happen again,
Have you been the owner for 20 years?
Yeah, almost 20 years.
Really? Okay. And you actually sold the cigarettes, or?
Myself,
Yourself.
I did mistake, that
Okay.
First time, I don't know how happened, but, always,
Okay.
I check always,
Okay. All right. So,
and won't happen again now, that's it.
okay, we appreciate you coming and saying that. And I'm sure you appreciate how important it is to the board that cigarettes are not sold to minors, not just because there's a regulation. But thank you for coming. Does the board have any questions for the owner?
As is this is the first offense as well, I recommend a 3-day suspension beginning on Tuesday, the 18th of April.
Do we have that motion?
Sure, I'll make that motion.
Second? Erin? Vote? Yes.
Erin? Yes. Bill?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Next,
We don't want to see you for another 28 years, right?
Thank you for coming. Yes, you're all set.
And happy holiday.
Thank you.
Route 38.
the next is a tobacco permit suspension hearing for Route 38 Sitco, located at 626 Rogers Street in Lowell. Route 38 Sitco sold a pack of Marlboro cigarettes to an 18-year-old male youth on January 11th of 2023 during routine compliance checks conducted by the Lowell Tobacco Control Program. This was the establishment's first sale of tobacco to a minor pursuant to the aforementioned state regulation within the last 36 months. This is a pack of cigarette that was purchased there by the same youth you see a photograph of before you. This happened at 11:36 a.m. approximately. This cost $13.10. Kid went in, asked for the product, was not challenged at all.
Is the owner present?
Mr. Mohammed Karim, who's the treasurer of the Route 38 Sitco, is here. He's going to address the board.
Hi, my name is Mohammed Karim. I'm part owner of the Sitco down the street, and we've been there since 2005. My partner and I, and we have another location in Salem, Massachusetts also. And pretty good, running a good operation. We've been rewarded by the gas company that we deal with a bunch of times. Whatever happened that day, there's no excuse. I know. We acknowledge the problem. The guy that sold the pack was his second day training. I know there's no excuse, I understand, and the guy is no longer working there. So what we did, I talked to the people that work there, we trained them, tried to emphasize that, the law again, and we're trying our best to keep this place, open and train people. Also, in my register, I have a scanner that can scan the ID for 21 years old or later. I'm trying to set it up through the Barco system. It's kind of like complicated a little bit, but I'm working on that too. So all I'm asking is just give us a break. I know I paid $1,000. Trying my best. It's kind of hard in our industry, like everybody knows. It's so hard to find people that wants to work, and it's just, we're all suffering. I'm working 70 hours between the two stores, and it's just hard. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I make the same recommendation, a 3-day suspension beginning on Tuesday, April 18th.
Motion. Second.
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Allison? Yes.
Next is,
Caesar, just quick, to his point about having trouble setting up that scanner, is that something you guys have any expertise and can help him set up?
not really, other than the recommendation that usually those systems can be bypassed, so training the employees to actually be consistent in using them is crucial. So next is the tobacco permit suspension here for Joe's Quick Marts. Is anybody here representing Joe's Quick Marts? You need to sign in, sir.
The
They hit a button or something to bypass?
Yeah, there's a button.
bypassed by the register, the person working the register.
They can bypass that scan thing, but we try not to tell them not to do it next to us. It's just like a reminder for the cashier to check the ID. It's there.
Thank you.
Okay, Joe's Quick Marts located at 300 Merrimack Street in Lowell. You're going to see on your packet that there's two different provisions that apply in this case because this is a second offense. Joe's Quick Mart sold a pack of Marlboro cigarettes to an 18-year-old male youth on January 12th, 2023, during routine compliance checks conducted by the Lowell Tobacco Control Program. This was the establishment's second sale of tobacco to a minor, pursuant to the aforementioned state regulation within the last 36 months. They were actually here last year for a first offense. They got a 3-day suspension, so now they're back for the same violation. This is a pack of cigarette that was purchased there at about 11:36 a.m. on the 11th, $13.10. The miner that we used was not challenged at all. Went up to the little window, asked for the product, was given the product and a change. That's it.
When exactly was the first violation?
First violation.
I remember, he looks familiar, but just curious when it was.
August 4th of 2021.
So for second offense, the fine is doubled, and what is the recommendation for the suspension?
A 7 consecutive business day suspension.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Members of the board, my name is Adam Barnowski. I'm an attorney on behalf of the licensee. My address is 255 State Street in Boston. With me is Khalil Kudri, who is the territory manager for the company. He is responsible for overseeing 9 of the stores in the area. I can tell you that in my conversations with the corporate office, that this is a matter the company takes very seriously. As was mentioned, this was the second violation. They've been in this business for decades, but in Massachusetts, and specifically at this location, I believe they opened up in that summer of 2021. After the first violation, they had discussions with management. The manager that was on site, or that was supposed to be on site rather, on the day in question has been terminated. The policy at this store and company-wide is that all employees are to be trained for 5 days, and they're not to be left alone in the store for at least 10 days. This was a new employee's third day on the job. Clearly, there was a breach of protocol here. The employees have been, the employee was it was discussed what needs to be done. There was a retraining. There's a retraining for the entire store. As was mentioned by a few other folks here, it is a challenging business with turnover, with folks who are coming in and out, and they recognize that they need to train. It's not as much training the employees, while that's incredibly important, but making sure that the management knows exactly what the policy is, which is why this manager, you asked about what's going to be done to make sure it doesn't happen again. They fire this manager. They're going to hire somebody that hopefully will have a better understanding of their rules and can implement them. But again, this was an employee who had not been on the job all that long before this happened. But there's no contesting that a violation has happened here. I would just say, briefly, that I know the purposes of these stings are really twofold. One, it's to ensure compliance, but two, it's to educate. And clearly, I think both of those things have been accomplished here. The licensee now knows that this individual shouldn't be working at the establishment, shouldn't be managing and overseeing people. And I think that all the steps that I would think the Board of Health would want to see in the event of a violation have occurred here. I would just ask that the board would consider, clearly, there's this a recommendation for a certain amount of numbers of days to be part of this violation. I'm not sure if it's the past practice or any, if there's any appetite to hold a portion of the 7 days in abeyance for the remainder of the 36-month period from that first violation, which could act almost as I think it could act as an additional deterrent, because in the event of a third violation, you would have to serve the third violation plus tack on the additional days of this violation. I think that it would be something that the licensee would appreciate if it was considered. Again, I know we're at the mercy of this board, but the licensee is open to doing whatever this board would recommend to ensure compliance. So thank you. Happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you. I think, in the past, so this evening we haven't had anyone who's presented any, circumstances that would cause us to change the days of closure, the number of days, but that's something we might consider if there was extenuating circumstances. We have, changed the number of days. We don't have a lot of lenience in terms of the regulation, but that's a suggestion that instead of changing the number of days, if there was some circumstance that we saw that we felt we needed in some way to be lenient, we might consider putting some of the days in abeyance. But I think in this situation, I personally don't see any reason to do that. I don't hear any other circumstances that would make me do that. But we try to be consistent in terms of the number of violations and the fine and the number of days that the suspension occurs.
I would echo what you said. I would just say that the circumstance is still employee bad behavior. That's what everybody else is here with the same thing. In fact, I find it even worse that it's a manager. The new employees, I can sympathize with all of you. but a manager should supposed to know about it. I have a little less tolerance or forgiveness for that than I do for the new employee. And I'm glad you didn't fire the new employee for that as well, so thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I mean, just to clarify, it wasn't the manager that made the sale. It was, yeah.
I understand that, but in part, that's because the manager was not doing their job
Right.
as you described.
Sure.
So I find that hard to forgive than a new employee making a mistake under the best of circumstances. So I'm glad you didn't fire the new employee, but I'm not sure I would forgive the days when it's a manager who didn't hold up their part of the bargain.
And we're not asking for, we would be asking for, forgiving the days, and I understand that the board has to have its policies. I would just think that, here, there's an added incentive. Again, it would be almost like a probation, where it would be a double hit in the event there was a third.
So we don't want to see you a third time. I think that's the big thing. That's kind of like a prenup. Like, no, we're not anticipating that you'd be here a third time. So I would just not be into taking the 7 days and putting it off.
I'm not sure 7 on top of 30, if that's what it would be, would really be that incentivizing. If the 30 alone is not going to do it, neither is the 7. Neither is 37 is how I would phrase it too. I agree with you.
I just want to make a comment on this particular case. This is a perfect example of a situation where it'll be best that all communications, including the permit application, is done by the local management. It's one of the proposed changes to the local regulation. In this particular case, when you talk to employees at that window, basically their attitude is, oh, we don't deal with permitting. And on the permit application, that's where we have 16 statements pulled right out of provisions of the state law and local regulation, which basically they have to initial each one individually, so they are aware of what's expected of them in addition to the educational visits that we make. So by having the corporate office that sometimes may lie on a different state, in a different time zone, it creates a disconnect. They don't want to deal with anything related to permit, so they don't care if the permit is suspended. Whereas if we deal directly with the local management and they actually the ones filling out the application, initially each statement and signing the application, they take more ownership of what they need to do in order to prevent these violations. That is why I have proposed that change to the local regulation. All right? So my recommendation in this case is a 7 consecutive business day suspension beginning on Tuesday, the 18th of April.
Do we have a motion?
Motion?
By Aaron, seconded by
Second.
Dr. Galvin. A vote? Yes.
Erin? Yes. Bill?
Yes.
We do appreciate you coming in the suggestions that you made.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the tobacco permit suspension hearing for Craft and Convenience located at 408 Suffolk Street in Lowell. Craft and Convenience sold a pack of Marlboro cigarettes to an 18-year-old male youth on January 12th of this year during routine compliance checks conducted by the Lowell Tobacco Control Program. This was the establishment's first sale of tobacco to a minor pursuant to the aforementioned state regulation within the last 36 months. This is a pack of Marlboro cigarettes that was purchased at that location at about 11:20 a.m. on the 12th. It cost $12.50. This is the only store tonight that actually asked for ID, but she still sold.
So if they ask for identification,
And still continue with the transaction and sold the pack of cigarette.
So they didn't hold them to it. You just say, I don't have it.
Exactly. And it's not uncommon to see some stores, and I'm
oh, so
glad-
the person said they didn't have it. They didn't give them ID.
The youth that we use don't carry IDs with them. So this is a no ID compliance check. And sometimes, only a few stores, if they ask for ID, the person doesn't have an ID, sometimes they ask, how old are you? So they're looking to make a sale, for an excuse to make a sale. In this particular case, she did not ask for age, but she did ask for ID, and still made the sale.
And if-
Mr. Peter Sam is here, he's the owner. He'd like to address the board.
Cesar, I think you're mistaken. We only asked for ID, like the way you just addressed it. I'm sorry that I wasn't there my name is Peter Sam. I'm the owner of Prata Convenience Store. I wasn't there at the incident took place. It was my daughter sold to under age of 21. So she's here now with me. So we always check ID. It just may be a bad day for her. She just came from school and then she walked in and helped her moms. You know, my wife at the store all the time in the morning, and then she maybe just like walk in and have some bad day with other, I don't know. She can attest to this. So this is our first offense since 16 years in operations. We never have any issues. My wife and I, have been maintaining good records. It's just like that one day, she just had a bad day. I don't really know, but and then the minute she got caught, ID from it, she called me, say, "Oh, Dad, I screwed up." So that's all I can tell you. I don't know what else to say. So
Okay. So obviously she's been
I addressed
re-educated.
I addressed it on my family member. It's a family-owned business. So going forward, we need to check an ID regardless of who you are. Regardless of whether you're like 50, 60, 70, we just gonna have to make it mandatory.
Yeah, that's a good point. The state law does say that anybody looking to purchase a tobacco product has to be carded, regardless of
Correct. And
appearance.
then also we have a USDA displays ID card, which is like taped to the front of cash register. They can check the ID. If you're born on this date, you'll be 21. You know what I mean? So again, she maybe have a bad day that day, walk in there and then just like sold it without thought was a regular customer.
It's her name, Miraday?
Yeah, Miraday.
Miraday, yeah,
Or you can
that's
call
the one
Caitlin.
that's,
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Can we assume that Dad's tortured you
So
enough?
let me ask you, on first offense, can the 3 day be waived? Or is it mandatory from?
It's mandatory.
I can see Market Basket or Walmart, they have a big account. You know what I mean? They can just like do that quickly. Okay. I guess.
My recommendation is a 3-day suspension beginning on Tuesday, the 18th of April.
So, Cesar, I'm sorry, are you going to send us a notice or we just like mark that down on our calendar?
Yes, you're going to receive a certified letter basically explaining that you have to remove all tobacco products from the store. There should be
Okay.
no tobacco products or vaping products on the premises on the day of the...
Okay, great. I just want to be clear so I can address to my store.
Yes, and you can also give me a call if you have any questions.
Okay, that's all.
You will be getting a letter, a notification with the details, right, Cesar?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Yes, yes.
Next is a tobacco permit...
We need a motion and a vote. Motion?
Motion made.
Second?
Second.
Yes.
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 Next is tobacco permit suspension hearing for Lucky Corner Market located at 1300 Gorham Street in Lowell. This is a second offense again. Lucky Corner Market sold a pack of Marlboro cigarettes to an 18-year-old male youth on January 11th, 2023, during routine compliance checks conducted by the Lowell Tobacco Control Program. This was the establishment's second sale of tobacco to a minor pursuant to the aforementioned state regulation within the last 36 months. This is a pack of Marlboro cigarettes that was purchased there at about 10:26 a.m. on the 11th for $11.25. Minor went in, was not asked for ID or anything, was not challenged at all. The previous violation occurred on May of last year. That's when they sold the first time pursuant to the state regulation. So,
May of 2022?
May of 22, yes.
So
May
less
2nd
than a year ago.
May 2nd of 22. And Mr. Sahid Tai, the owner, is here tonight to address the board.
Hello everyone, my name is Sahid Tai. We try to not selling for underage cigarette, always training the employees. But that day she have I don't know what happened, she so mad and she have something problem with the family and she did it. That thing that she selling for underage. We always teach employees not do it, the like sell cigarette like underage. Always check the ID. We put a sign on the window, we put a sign on the counter and everywhere. I don't know what happened that day. So I try to next time not happen again. I don't like to come every time here it's not very bad. But we keep the business safe and safety and plus all rules and regulation follow, But I don't know, she have a, like something problem with the family. I asked her, she say, oh, I'm sorry, I have a very bad day, plus I have something problem with the family, so I got a big mistake. So I teach her, I explain everything, but I don't know what happened that day. So I try to next time not happen.
Was it the same employee as last time?
No.
Different employee?
Yeah, she just started like 15 days ago. She very smart, but I don't know what happened. Been running business 9 years.
There's also a prior history of a sale to a minor that occurred back in 2018, January 11th, 2018. I'm sorry, August 21st of 2018, there was a sale to a minor occurred there, but it was not pursuant to the state law. It was pursuant to the local regulation, so that's why we did not include that as a third offense.
Okay.
Recommendation is the same. It's a 7-day consecutive days suspension beginning on Tuesday, the 18th of April.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you. Vote.
Judy?
Yes.
Chris? Bill?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
And Cesar, I appreciate the consistency, but I wouldn't, in my own mind, don't discount any prior mistakes made, even if it was before the state. So if he were to come back for a third one in this time frame, there would be 4 in my, that would be a maximum suspension for you, sir, in my mind.
Yeah, the issue is that we can't say we are citing them pursuant to the state law and add another violation to it. I mean, I can give it to you as a part of the history.
We have leeway in how many days we suspend for.
Right.
Not the fine, but the suspension. We're giving everybody the minimum amount.
Yeah.
But I start hearing someone coming back over and over again. I'm like, we have leeway in how much we suspend, and we try to be consistent, but that would be an exception in my rule to give them more.
Right. So Mr. Tai, I mean, you understand that if this happens again, you'll be fined $5,000 and you'll be suspended for up to 30 consecutive business days, right?
Okay.
Most likely 30
Yeah,
consecutive business days.
I hope it not happen next time.
All right.
It's too much money. We don't make it too much money for the cigarette now, you know that. So I try to.
Right, we just want you to be educated, and you,
Yeah, yeah.
Claire, and you invested in knowing what the third violation could entail.
Yeah, I understand.
We want you to be educated and aware and informed, and have some incentive, given what the third violation, which would be technically your 4th violation, would involve. So whatever you can do to ensure that, I think, is in your own best interest.
Mr. Tai, do you sell alcohol at your location?
No. There's
All right.
next door.
So tobacco is the only age-restricted product that you sell. Therefore, there should be no reason why you don't stop when somebody asks for a pack of any tobacco product before making the sale. So you can follow a protocol that will prevent selling to a minor. It's not a difficult thing to do. But if your employees don't get the feeling that when somebody asks for a tobacco product is a special kind of consideration, they're going to make a mistake again, and you're going to pay the fine and the suspension.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Can I go?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Next, this is the tobacco permit appeal hearing for 7-Eleven located at 463 Chelmsford Street in Lowell. 7-Eleven sold a pack of Marlboro cigarettes to an 18-year-old male youth on January 11th of 2023 during routine compliance checks conducted by the Lowell Tobacco Control Program. This was the establishment's second sale of tobacco to a minor pursuant to the aforementioned state regulation within the 36 months. The first violation occurred last year, I believe. I can give you specific dates. May 2nd of 2022, they were issued a fine of $1,000. That fine was paid in increments, like an installment, and you also received a 3-day suspension of that tobacco permit. In this particular time, this is a pack of Marlboro cigarettes that was purchased at about 9:50 a.m. On the 11th for $13.05. The minor went in and was not asked for ID, was not asked for age, nothing like that. The person who made the sale was a young man by name Prasanna. Miss Shireen is here, she's the owner. She was there at the store at the time. When I went back in to check the description and give notice, she had come back from the bathroom, I believe. So she was there, so she witnessed my notification of the violation. So as a second offense, my recommendation is 7 consecutive business days suspension, beginning on Tuesday, the 18th.
So the previous offense was less than a year ago.
Correct.
And I remember that we were lenient in allowing them to make installment payments in consideration of financial situation.
That is correct.
And at the time, we had a discussion about, we were being lenient in allowing installments as a favor to them, but we hoped that we would not see them again. Just in case anyone who wasn't here then doesn't recall that, but, I'm
So Ms.
sorry.
Shireen is here. She'd like to address the board.
Okay. If you could if you're able to go to the podium.
Sorry, I want to take. Sorry.
Because this is the second one, an employee didn't obey the rules. First one, I wasn't in the building, and one of my employee did it, and I paid her the mistake. And for the second time, I want to introduce you myself again. My name is Shireen Kurji. I am 57 years old. I am wife, mother for 2 kids, and we immigrate from 10 years to have better life for me, for my family, for my kids. Me and my husband, we make small business as a franchisee at 7-Eleven from 5 years. We start from 5 years, and we work so hard. I work morning, my husband take evening, and since the pandemic, I didn't find good employee. I have many struggles of find employee who can help me. The store is very hard. 7-Eleven, I am not totally the owner. I am franchisee, like worker with contract. So since the pandemic, I can't find employee, and every day I wake up. This is my routine. I wake up at 3 in the morning to go to the store at 4. Even holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, I don't have chance to celebrate any day with my kids or my family. I'm always working. I respect the law. I respect all the instruction. Even on December 28th, my son has a big operation. I didn't support him go to the hospital. I was working. So, first time I have my son with me. I'm sorry. Okay. On January 11,
It's okay.
on the morning, as my routine, I wake up at 3. I went to the store. I work so hard. I have a new employee. His name is Damien. I hired him on 19. I trained him good. I taught him all the instruction. First things, I taught him behind the register to ID any person for any selling of tobacco, because I got fined first time, and I don't need to do another mistake. So he wasn't doing good in front of me behind the register and dealing with the customer. On this day, I worked so hard, and at 9:45, as a human being, I want to go to the restroom. I left him, and I trust he worked good because in front of me he was doing good. When I came back from the restroom, few seconds, I saw the director of health department coming with a pack of cigarettes and told me, your employee sold the cigarette for a minor. The employee has over 21 years, and he understands very good what he did. He is not a kid, and I told him very good. I was shocked, really, I was shocked. And I yelled to the employee, and I fired him at once. Before I fired him, he was telling the director, I'm sorry, this is my mistake. But I understand. I understand. It was my mistake. I hire a person doesn't obey the rules. How can I know? So I take two steps or two actions. I fire him at once. Second, we change the system of the POS register. So I will not let anyone ask the ID or don't ask. He has to ask, because we can't sell now any product of tobacco without scanning the ID.
So the system, you can't even pass?
You can't
like,
bypass it?
my daughter, yeah, you can't press anything to pass. Even our regular customers that we know, or even old people, we're you have to scan ID now. So now it doesn't matter if me selling cigarettes or anyone at the store at the moment. So that's the new system we have. And I'm her daughter. I also train people whenever I have time. I work as a quality control at a company. It's called Vericel. We do self-therapy for people who get burned. So I understand how strict it is, because we also deal with life and death. People who get really burned, who can die in a day or less. So we really inspect the product as well, because we don't want any kind of endotoxin or any kind of bacteria in the products. So I understand how strict and how serious all this, and even when I train people at the store as well, we ensure that you can't sell under 21. Whatever kind of tobacco it is. So we're just asking for any.
I have also testimony of my business community. They write letters and their ID person, and I have signature from people or customers that ID. Please, if you can, take few seconds and read this letter. And at the result, please, I beg you not to suspend my license, because I'm not the owner. First time, I paid the violation for the city. You suspend my license 3 days, and 7-Eleven didn't file
Did you just say that 7-Eleven may take the store away from you? Is that what you're saying to us?
So the first time you had a fine from 7-Eleven?
Is that true? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the 7-Eleven fines as well.
So does 7-Eleven pay the fine and then they fine the franchise? They don't, you have to pay both fines?
Franchisee, I pay, they give me a percentage of the
Profit?
profit. If I don't make profit, they make me pay for non-profit, for losing sales. Any fine, I pay it. Plus, they make me pay another fine for losing the sense of tobacco. So, I pay it like 3 times. First time for the city, second time for losing the customers, third time for the 7-Eleven.
Regardless of this, maybe it's time you open up your own store and get out from 7-Eleven. This is why they're not doing so well as a franchise, if this is the way they treat their people.
Sir, did you want have something to say?
Thank you, ma'am.
If you could say, pardon me? Okay.
My name is John Haddad. Of that family. I'm a customer at the store as well. Ironically, that incident of January 11th took place within 2 minutes of Shireen going to the bathroom. 2 minutes, ladies and gentlemen, 2 minutes. The minor jumped inside the store, had 2 minutes or less, and the employee that hasn't been working at the store for not even a month, not even 3 weeks, gave him the pack of cigarettes, took the money from him in less than 2 minutes while Shireen was in the bathroom. Any human being doesn't take more than 2 minutes to go to the bathroom. Let's say 2.5 minutes. In 2.5 minutes, everything was done, completed, and the boys from the board jumped inside the store. You sold it to a minor? No, she didn't. This is one incident. Second incident happened in March. I don't know if you guys are aware of it or not. On about March 15, which is about 3 weeks ago, I was at the store, and this time was an adult, not a minor, an adult in his 40s. And there was one employee at the store, and that employee valued her job and values the principles of Shireen and her family. She wanted to buy cigarettes without scanning his ID. He doesn't have an ID. The employee by the name of Colin No said to him, I'm sorry, I can't give you cigarettes unless I see your ID. You know what? This guy had the guts to offer her $40 for a pack of cigarettes. I mean, come on. Those are the employees that Shireen hires and trains. Damien was a sorry mark into her, or hurt mark in her record. So imagine, I don't know if you agree with me, or is my imagination that in less than 2 months, raid to the store. I mean, I don't believe that anybody would come, whether I had an ID or not, unless I had some incentives to make the employee and the owner of the business fall in my trap, offering them $40 for a pack of cigarettes. Unheard of. And I'm sure you guys, ladies and gentlemen, can see what I'm talking about. And thank you. H-A-D-D as in David, A as in Apple, and D as in David. Thank you.
Nada, N-A-D-A.
I think we're all very sympathetic to what's going on with you, so don't misunderstand. There are rules we follow. There are violations that occurred. You heard the gentleman with his daughter and the hardship it was going to put on him as well. So this is the question for you. The question for you legitimately is, why are you different than all the other business owners here who are going to suffer financially and otherwise as well? Now, this does make us all think. I'm sure we're all thinking differently. I know I am. But I'm just telling you, as a general principle, your store has sold to minors twice, not once, twice in a year. And we have rules that we uphold. And you just heard seven other entities, pretty much all except one being a small business owners, one other corporate person, and all with the same issues. Bad employee, not there at the right time, and this happened. A lot of them are new employees, so it's not like we're unsympathetic. It's just hard to say for you we're going to not do anything when the other seven, we just gave them all fines and suspensions. So we hear your plea, and we appreciate it, but it doesn't necessarily mean we can just let things go. Because you acknowledge that your employee did sell the pack of cigarettes. The violation is there. It did occur. And once you do that, that's an automatic fine and suspension.
I changed the system. So I fired the employee. I changed the system. No one can sell cigarettes without ID and scan.
I'd like to make a comment. Most establishments, after they have a sale, they promise to make changes to how they conduct business so as to prevent future sales. And a corporation like 7-Eleven, where she's a franchisee subject to very strict rules, my thinking is that simply training employees and having a POS system, it doesn't seem to me to rise to the level of the danger that she's subject to if there's another violation, which in fact occurred. So to me, whatever procedure she would have used would have to have been something stronger, more definitive to prevent a sale to a minor. So just training an employee or having a POS system doesn't seem to cut it given the risk that she has of losing her franchise. Like, for example, not allowing anybody else to sell tobacco but her, or having the tobacco display locked, like in some places they are locked. So she could have done something to prevent the sale to a minor. You'd be a bit drastic compared to other locations, but she's subject to a more strict rules from 7-Eleven. She could lose a franchise, she could be fined again. Given all that, I think that the steps she took were insufficient to prevent the sale. And if all she can offer right now is, hey, I'm going to train my employees again, I'm going to have a POS system, that's not sufficient. It's going to happen again.
So what do you suggest? I'm sorry, one second. What do you suggest? I'm sorry. I just
My-
want to hear what you have to say.
Right. I can't suggest a specific solution to your problem because you have a unique situation where you're subject to a contract with 7-Eleven where you penalize and you can lose your franchise. My thinking is if you choose to be in the business of selling tobacco products, you have to be absolutely certain that it's not going to happen again. And the current system that you have, it's not foolproof. It's going to happen again at some point. So my advice is, some locations, they may lock the tobacco. They may assign one person to make sales of tobacco only. That might reduce your sales, but it might prevent you from selling to a minor unintentionally. Because I believe you, I don't think you want to sell to minors. But the solution that you implemented was insufficient. That's my thinking.
Yeah, I want to say something. Quality control, they all treat us as animals, okay? We work with products. They don't expect us that we're going to do all this stuff with no mistakes. Maybe I had a deviation, maybe I had a bacteria growth in something. It happens. It's deviation. That doesn't mean, well, no analyst can work except there's growth, like bacteria growth, and only manager have to run that. No, they do other trainings. They teach us, they talk to us, they show us again. This is how I see it. It's not like you just say, oh, it's insufficient. Well, we try different ways.
Right, that was the first one. Okay. company would say, okay, this keeps happening under your watch, you can't work here because you're not doing a good job. So the question is, how many more opportunities do we give? And again, I go back to why are you different than everybody else that we just punished?
Can I say that?
Yeah.
I'll tell you why they're different. Because of the fact that that first incident that took place last May, I believe it was May 2nd, was it? Yes. And they wanted to test the place again with a new employees. There was some knowledge. Somebody knew. I'm not accusing anybody here, or the board, or controller, whatever they are. But I'm saying, how ironic it is that within 2 minutes, Shireen disappeared of the company, went to the bathroom. The kid was inside buying the
Not lost on us the timing of this. I understand
And
that.
then again, under my eyes, it happened again in March. A grown-up man in his 40s offering $40 for a pack of cigarettes. I don't believe it that any man or any woman in their own mind would offer $40 for a pack of cigarettes from a certain place. You can go to a different store, they give you the same price.
Thank you, sir. No, I think we're all done here. So we're supposed to allow the board is supposed to allow 5 minutes for people to speak during the hearing, and I think we're well over that. Some of it has been repeated a few times. We're hearing what you're saying. It's up to the board to decide. I assure you that the tobacco control person and the underage person who was not watching your store to see when your owner was going to go to the ladies' room and then rush in and try to buy a pack of cigarettes. It's not something in our wheelhouse or something that we attempt to do, and we did not send someone in to offer you or bribe you $40 to just to be clear, to try, to allow you to buy a pack of cigarettes. We don't have adults on the staff that go in and try to purchase. That's because we're looking at underage purchase. So we would not send an adult into your store without an ID. There wouldn't be a purpose for that.
Just for the record, since last year's violation, we only checked them this time.
Right.
In between that, there was a check by the FDA that was conducted on July 26th of 2022. It was conducted by them. They follow a very similar protocol to the ones that we follow. I can imagine somebody who tried to buy it for $40. It's not going to happen.
Okay. So we've attempted to purchase cigarettes from your establishment twice in the last year, and both times you sold to minors. So it's hard to imagine that those were the only 2 times in that 1 year period that you sold to minors, that just happened to be the 2 times that someone from the health department was in. We'll give you the benefit of the doubt that those were the only 2 times you sold. It's difficult, and so.
You can doubt them, sir. You can doubt them, and we can be here all night, but this board is telling you, take it from our perspective. Everybody that comes in here with a reason why it happened and it's not their fault and it'll never happen again. You're here twice in a year. The only times we've inspected, you failed them both. Circumstances are not. From our perspective, it's hard to believe it's the only 2 times, and it's hard to believe that it won't happen again. And it's not that we're unsympathetic to you, because we are. But by the same token, this is our job. This is what we were asked to do. We were asked to enforce the tobacco laws. And unless it's something really extreme circumstances, there's not a lot of leeway. And unfortunately, your financial situation, how hard you're working, everything you put into this store, for that crappy agreement, by the way, that you have from 7-Eleven, which I look at that and I cringe, but that unfortunately is not part of our consideration. Our consideration is, did you violate the law? How many times have you done it? And there has to be some punishment. We can't just let you off and say, yeah, you did it, but you're free to go. That's not even allowed. It's not going to be allowed. So something's got to happen. And it doesn't help when you say, you accuse us of maybe trying to conspire against it and catch it at the right time, and it also doesn't help, and it also doesn't, fine, right. So just accept that we understand your situation, we feel bad for you, but there's only so much we can let go.
Is there anyone else on the board that would like to ask a question or comment? Okay.
Therefore, my recommendation is 7-day suspension, beginning consecutive day suspension beginning on Tuesday, the 18th of April.
We have the documentation, from folks that buy cigarettes there every day, if you can imagine. So I think that the fine should be more than 3 days because that was the fine for the first offense. But, the suspension should be more than 3 days. But I'm willing to negotiate something less than 7 days, I guess, if the board agrees in any way.
Sorry, this might be the example that the previous attorney talked about, where you give them the break this time, but the next time it gets added on. So you could think about that.
So I guess we could also include up to 7 days in abeyance should so we could suspend for somewhere between 3 and 7 days, but not eliminate those last few days and keep them in abeyance. If there's another violation, those could be added on at the next juncture of the violation. But
I understand. The issue that I see with that is that the language that's present in the regulation is always consecutive days. So if you're going to suspend for 3, it's going to be consecutive business days, not even just regular days. It's got to be consecutive business days. And same thing, if it is a 7 days, it's got to be consecutive 7 business days, consecutive 30 business days.
So we can't split them up, is what you're saying.
Splitting them up, it doesn't seem to be provided for in the regulation.
Third one would be, if you give them a break this time, then I would just warn them, next one's likely to be a 30-day one regardless.
it will be at least, it will be 30 days regardless of the circumstances.
I would say that I think that she's gotten doubly fined twice now, so I think the 3 days for me is enough, knowing that
because
if
she's
she
gonna
comes
pay
a third
the-
time.
She's already going to pay the difference in what she's losing in revenue from them.
My final comments is this. Obviously the board can decide what's best here, but my final comments is this. Every business has different background scenarios as to what kind of impact they're going to suffer. But the extenuating circumstances you have to consider in order to deviate from your pre-established process is regarding the time of sale. So whatever happened at the time of sale that was unique, that was extraordinary, that deviated from the previous situations, it's completely unsimilar to all the other stores that were here before, then that's when I think you should consider maybe doing something different. But when you're looking at the impact, every store has a different impact. If you were to hear the stories, behind-the-scenes stories from every store that we're here tonight, they've always been here before the board. I'm sure there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on. And once you go into the rabbit hole, there's no coming back. You create a precedent that's going to open up the sport for liability because you're being consistent. I'm all in favor of considering something that the circumstances of the sale they're unique. There's something extraordinary about it. I'll be fine with it, but in this case, it was not. It was very simple, straightforward.
Aaron?
Anyone entertain the motion to separate the fine again, to give more lenience and time to pay back?
Okay.
It's unpaid still.
Okay, so we'll start with the fines. We have a motion to allow a longer period. What is the period of time that they would have to pay the $2,000?
The regulation doesn't establish when they should be paid. We always assume paid at once. The last time, how long was it given to you to pay the fine? 500.
Okay, so do we have, would the maker of the motion agree to $500 a month for 4 months?
Yes.
Does that sound reasonable? Okay, so we have a motion aboard to allow the fine to be paid over a 4-month period at $500 a month. And then we need a motion with regard to the days. I think it should be more than 3 days because the first violation was 3 days. But again, if the board has a number of days less than 7 that they think is appropriate, then we could discuss that. What is the wish of the body? If everyone just, Aaron?
I think it does have to be more than 3, because that was the first offense, and we talked about it during the first offense, that, if you come back, and there are other things that you can kind of put in place to deter, but I think that we have to be consistent. I'm sure Quick Mart that's a franchise too. They may have other consequences that just weren't brought up to us. That's my thoughts on that.
4 or 5? 4?
4.
4. Dr. Galvin?
I will go along with the rest of the board. I would like you to know, I've been on this board for 10 years. There have only been 2 exceptions to these, and you're both of them. If you're here a third time, I personally put the earplugs in and not even listen to you. I'm just going to say 5,030, and I don't even want to hear it. Because literally, the only 2 exceptions we've ever made are you.
Who's making the motion? Hold on one
I'm sorry. You cannot. One moment, please, ma'am.
I have a motion for 4 days.
Second. All those in favor?
Joanne?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Bill? Yes. Sorry, I should specify this is a vote on both motions.
Yeah.
Yes. Kathleen?
Yes.
And Allison?
Yes.
A 4-day tobacco permit suspension is to begin on Tuesday, the 18th. Those are 4 consecutive business days.
We know that.
We understand that, ma'am.
I beg you to change.
With all due respect, man, this meeting, it was supposed to have ended a half an hour ago.
Yeah,
We gave
we
you a
need
lot
to
of
go.
time. We have our own lives too. It's a state law. It's not this board. We don't make the rules.
Good evening.
If you want to take your employees' information, I'll mail back your other things once I make a copy, okay?
Susan, thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm going to send those back to you directly to the package.
So just so you know, there's confidential information on that? Okay, thank you. I don't want that information.
I'll either mail
It's-
it back or have Caesar bring it back to you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approval for discussion, the funeral director's licensure for 2023-2024. And we have mailed you the list of funeral directors up for licensing. Any comments or questions? Do we have a motion to approve all of the funeral directors' licenses that are on the list?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
Joey?
Yes.
Karen? Yes. Bill? Yes.
Yes.
Kathleen? Yes. Allison? Yes.
The next item on the agenda is the review of the Trinity EMS, Pride Star Trinity EMS reports and notifications submitted by John Kelly on overdoses. Any questions or comments?
No.
Nope.
They're down a little bit, which is good.
The next item on the agenda is the monthly development services report submitted by Senior Code Inspector Jimmy Lee, who is not present this evening. He is currently on leave. We have the list of failed inspections. Does anyone have any questions about the failed inspections?
Just about the schools, are they still having the exterminator? Are they still working together to plug up the holes and get that all under control? It seems like they've been showing up, especially Lowell High the last.
Right. So we have asked someone from Lowell High to, am I right, to come to, I think the plan is for someone from Lowell High to come to the May meeting to talk about, and the service,
Failed 3 out of 3.
yeah, exterminator service, I'm blanking on their name. Banner.
And I believe there was some communication from Jimmy Lee that Banner has been very receptive to these issues that they're having.
Well, time out. Banner was here like a month
Right.
or two ago, and,
Right.
and we were talking about these same things.
Right.
So what has changed in the last 2 months?
I think that the follow-up from the school to him, like the communication from the school to him, is not very good in some of these schools.
Maybe we need to have some from the school.
Correct.
So we need to have someone from the school and from Banner present at next month's meeting, so we can all attempt to get on the same page, because the issue has not improved in any way. And it's always difficult, I think, when we have a city building failing a health code inspection that has a contract with a pest control company, and we can't seem to remediate the situation in any improvement in any way in terms of improvement. Lowell High, according to the report, has failed 3 of the last 3 inspections in terms of rodent control. And so next month we'll have maybe a health inspector. I don't know how.
Yes, Jimmy Lee is back.
So
the 11th. He's on paternity leave.
Okay. So we'll have an inspector, someone from the school department, and Banner to address the issues. And perhaps we can also discuss the Wang School at the same time. Is that what you were addressing, Kathleen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions in terms of the failed health inspections, the list of restaurants, and on the failed inspection list? Okay. And also listed are the new restaurants opening that were inspected, Momochi and Nibbana. Any questions on those?
No.
Okay. Then we'll go to the next item on the agenda, the body art practitioner license for Allison Fitzgerald. We have a motion to approve. Everything's in order. The body art practitioner checklist.
Motion to approve.
Seconded. All those.
Is the hepatitis B vaccine up to
Yeah,
date?
she's a previous practitioner that was
Okay.
late getting her paperwork in for the January renewal, so she's
All set.
And so do we have a motion to approve body art practitioner Allison Fitzgerald?
Thought I made that already.
Yes.
Bill?
Yep.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is the November 2023 Board of Health meeting. Apparently, this room has become unavailable on November 1st, and so we're looking for a discussion as to whether folks would like to try to find another room, whether that's an issue for LTC or not, I don't know, or move it to the following Wednesday.
If we happen to switch rooms and one meeting is not recorded, I don't think that that would be a problem. So we could look at the DPD room. That wouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
Should be okay.
So would the board prefer to keep it on the Wednesday or move it to the next Wednesday? Because we can do either, it sounds like, right?
I essentially don't. It doesn't matter much to me, whatever would be easiest.
I'm sorry.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, keep it.
Keep it on the first Wednesday? Okay. And if Carrie, if you could attempt to ascertain where we could meet, that would be great. Okay. The next item on the agenda under old business is the Duck Island Biobot Analytics Report from March 27th.
Great, next.
Status quo.
It's all good news, I guess, Lisa?
Yep, status quo. Yeah.
COVID's going down, down, down.
Down, down, down.
And the next item is the air quality control report for Lowell High School during the construction. And I don't know if you remember one of the previous meetings, we asked for an update. We had a few rooms that had some borderline air quality issues, and we did, in the packet is the response from Mr. Underwood about air purifiers and filters being placed in those 3 rooms, and a plan to include large exhaust fans set in the exterior wall to help with cross ventilation, dragging in fresh air from the opposite side of the building, because those rooms were interior rooms, as they were called, I guess. Any questions on that?
No.
The next item on the agenda
Maybe
is...
that's what's digging up the rats.
The next item on the agenda is the director's report.
Night mice, sorry.
So Kerry did give you a copy of a proclamation. It's a little bit small, so the original one is a little bit bigger than this. So last night at the city council meeting, the health department was given a proclamation. This is Public Health Week. So we were given this, and
Congrats.
yes, so they did say thank you for everything that we have done for COVID and everything that we do for the city of Lowell. So it was a very nice award that we were given, and
Nice.
yeah, it was very nice. So this is Public Health Week, so that was very nice. It will be put in a nice little frame and put at the health department. So that was very nice. If anybody wants to go back and do the replay, it was very nice. Rita spoke, and Corey Robinson spoke and said very nice things. So, and quite a few members of the health department went. So that was nice. And then we got a very nice.
Board getting an invite to that, by the way.
Well, you could have come. I didn't realize it was going to be such. I didn't realize it was going to be such a big thing. So we made a copy for you.
We would have come to show our support.
And then we had extra snacks for you today. So there's extra snacks for you today. And then there are the reports here. If you have any questions.
Is the public health nurse manager position still open?
No, we have Nicole's back.
Oh, right, okay. Is there a public health nurse position?
Just one public health nurse.
One public health nurse position vacant?
No, it's posted right now, yeah.
In case anyone who's listening or
One public health
watching
nurse
is interested.
position vacant. All of the school health, school nurse positions are still filled. So that is good.
That's not an easy feat.
No, it's not.
That's awesome.
This is the second meeting I've said that, so that's pretty nice.
Knock on wood.
Yep, knock on wood.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Anything else?
Nope, I don't think so.
Could I just ask, so under Nicole Chauncey's Board of Health report, so hers, I think it's different than it used to be.
It is different. So the way that the TB cases are, she did change that a little bit because in Maven, they've changed the way that they report them. And also, instead of doing, when I looked at it, instead of doing March of 23 and March of 22,
Right.
and then year to date, full year of 22 and full year of 23, she missed a column. And I didn't pick up on it until the whole thing was done, so it's like there's a whole column missing.
Yeah.
Because I like to see the full last year and
Right.
then this year's.
Right.
So a whole column's missing.
Okay.
You're absolutely
all right.
correct.
So I was like,
Yeah.
So there's no 2022 information to compare
Correct.
it to.
Correct.
So next time,
Yes.
if she could include that
Yeah.
comparison, it's helpful, I think.
Correct. I agree with you. Yeah,
Okay.
we're missing that. And then the way that she kind of spelled out why the TB numbers are a little bit different for you.
Yeah, I wasn't really even looking at the, I mean, other than just the, the numbers. You don't have the 2022 number to compare it to, but it was just, just in general, there's no information to compare it to
Correct.
last year. Okay.
Oh, and the public health nurses actually got a scholarship for $3,300. They're going to be getting infection prevention certified. So they got a scholarship from NACHO.
Oh, that's awesome.
To get that. So it's actually the
National
National
Association
Right. So it's actually for the epidemiologist, the 3 public health nurses, and myself to get certified in infection prevention.
That's great.
Yep. So that was nice. All fun things.
Oh, good. Any questions for the director?
Move to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, seconded?
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.